greatest show in wrestling. Wow, women of wrestling.
Oh, even I cannot swallow that one.
Whose side are you on?
The same side you are on. My own.
You know what? We all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
And it is for the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
For the World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
Welcome all to another edition of the Rights and Wrongs Pro Wrestling Podcast. This is your host, Mr. Green, and we've got another big week in front of us. I'm just coming off of a WoW episode, which, you know, the main event was the main event, but upcoming, they're finally going to get to their dog collar match. I guess it's been about a month, so that's about time to turn that around. But of course, we will get to the review portion of the show in a bit. First, I want to say that some of these episodes may, within this upcoming week, be off by several days. I'm actually on vacation as this is airing. I record this somewhat ahead of my normal schedule. Of course, it's after the show was aired, but I'm recording ahead of what I would normally do so I can try to get it in the can and schedule it for upload. If it doesn't make it that way, it's because I'm out of town. That's a long story to get to that point. I'm out of town and I don't have access to all my stuff. So, and I'm thinking about I might just do a bare bones version of one of the upcoming episode, which actually will feature the dog collar match. But time will tell. We will see where that goes. Also, I have a bone to pick with both Penelope Pink and Sandy Shore. Yes, you two. I have a bone to pick with you. I am mad. How dare you come into the state the week that I leave? The week that I leave. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, there is a match that is going to be taking place on, well, it's scheduled, card always subject to change, but it is scheduled to take place on February 15th, and it will be in Augusta, Georgia. And who are the participants of that match? Why, Marina Tucker and Madison, well, is it Maddie Max? I know she's had like 2 or 3 different handles at this point. But that's not the problem that I'm upset about. I'm upset because not only are they coming in town while I'm out of town, but they're doing this under the guise of their wild personas. It's not a big deal that they've wrestled each other before. They've actually had a match between the two of them in some other varying promotion as Marina Tucker and Maddie Max. I hope I'm remembering her name right. I apologize if I'm not. But at Next Level Championship Wrestling in LCW, they will host what is essentially an unofficial match between Penelope Pink and Sandy Shore. I say unofficial in the sense of it. Whatever takes place at this location with those two, I'm pretty sure is not going to have any relevance to the program whatsoever. However, it's an interesting thing that there is a promotion that has actually decided to go in the route of, well, let's use them as the wild personalities they are, opposed to the independent personalities. That could be a game changer for some of them if this is a trend that goes up. I do not expect a bunch of independent promotions just around the country doesn't suddenly start booking wild girls like that. But let's just say that some of them do. I am speaking directly to wild medics, you know, before I even start, because I feel like I've already rolled off into talking news and stuff like that. So let's just make this official, the point where this is the news, views, and updates. Go. All right, so now here we are. News, views, and updates. Picking up where I left off. It would be interesting to see if other places would take advantage of that, or at least try to. And again, WoW as a promotion probably has very little to gain from that on the surface of it. However, and this is me, I'm getting back to the point that I was about to make before I queued up the next segment. If I were in charge of that, I would be asking for one requirement. I don't care if you take the booking, nor do I care that you take the booking underneath the WoW, under your WoW persona. But what I am going to ask you to do is get me the footage. Either have the promoter contact me, or you take your cell phone and get somebody to shoot it. However you get that, get me the footage. And so I can put it on TV so I can make it look like a bigger deal than what it's been. It will begin to look more worldly if it is in a different location, at a different branch, you know, under different circumstances. Now, if that is the case, and if it's a one-off, I can only imagine that it would have to be Penelope Pink that would need to go over in this environment. Like, the only way that this match even remotely comes off like a peer-to-peer match is because it's taking place outside of a WoW environment. Otherwise, if it was on television, there would be no question who's winning this. But since it is not, and it will probably be a more competitive version of that match, yeah, I would say get me the footage. And I'll make sure that, you know, the promoter is reasonably credited, well, not fully credited for everything that takes place. The location, their social media, website, you name it. That's on that screen while that match is taking place. Or at least the clips of it. I don't have to show the whole match. I was like, let me just show a couple of clips, if nothing else. Now, I don't know if WoW would ever want to do that. I would, because it's only going to make the talent look that much better, and it probably would get them some level of additional bookings once the word starts to crawl out. It's not going to be an overnight thing. It's not going to be fast. Even if they started doing it, and even if promoters started wanting to participate, it's not going to be a quick, easy fix. But if they start now, it will probably get some level of attention elsewhere, to where some people will, hey, yeah, I want to book so-and-so, and, you know, give me Spring Break 20. I can't imagine anybody want to do that. But anyway, you know, the Fierce Sisters or the Keita Rush or whoever, if they were to take some bookings outside of WoW, well, one or two things are going to happen. One, either they're going to be exposed for not being as good as what they think they are, or they will get the experience that they require. Either way is I think it's a interesting proposition that they, to the best of my knowledge, is the first time. No, that's not true. I was about to say, to the best of my knowledge, it's the first time that someone outside of WoW with the WoW gimmick went someplace else and wrestled. That's not true. I have to retract that statement. It doesn't happen often, but it has happened. Riot, several years ago, I want to say probably, well, it's got to be over 10 to 12 years now. She participated in a match with Angelina Love in a Northeastern show as Riot. And I think it's like the one and only time that she wrestled outside of WoW. And she openly, and I have that interview. It's one of my favorite interviews because she was very forthcoming and gave a lot of information about behind the scenes on WoW at a point in time when that was not available. And even now it's not really available. They pretty much try to keep closed doors. But it really gave her education. She openly admitted to me, it's like, what I do and what they did it was different. It's like I was used to coming in and getting everything practiced before I went out to the ring. She's like, whereas when I walked into that locker room, they would just meet each other like, what do you do? And here's what I do. And then they would just make a match right then. I was like, yeah, that's pretty much how it goes. So she realized that she was a fish out of water in that regard. But again, to the ones that are not that, the ones who do have a wrestling background and the ones that want to learn, I say it's a good thing. One thing I wanted to make sure that I brought up before I went any further is one of the people on the independent circuit, particularly in the Southeast, and she has made appearances with AEW, has officially, by her word, stepped away or pulled out of pro wrestling. That would be Dani Jordyn, the real mean girl, Dani Jordyn. When did I meet? I had an interview with Dani several years ago, and she hadn't adopted the mean girl gimmick quite yet. At the time when I met her and had the time to do a sit down with her, she was the beach bum. Surprisingly enough, it was also the same location that some people would know her, the Woad. She's another indie standout. But also Holidead. Holidead was there that day. So the match that is on my channel featuring Dementia the Rose taking on Holidead was from that event. And I got nothing to say about Holidead in that particular instance, so I'll move on. So anyhow, Dani Jordyn, that was the time that I got a chance to sit down and talk with her. She was just getting her feet into the pro wrestling business, and that interview was like 6 years old. And after that, that's when she reinvented herself and out of being a beach bum, and she became the mean girl, and she was coming out the ringside with the burn book, and she was clearly inspired, obviously by the movie Mean Girls. For those who go like, what movie? Into that one. Okay. So, which is also the reason I was like, it would be great to have a match with the Mean Girls, the Detroit Barbie, Marina Tucker, and Dani Jordyn, which they did. They just didn't have, and I think Marina had responded when I put the little post up on Instagram some years ago. Then she missed the point of what I was saying. I was like, it needed an angle, not just a match. That was where I thought it was lacking. I was like, the match on his own was fine, but it needed an angle to really kind of set it off. But that's neither here nor there. What I want to do real quick is just read her post, which will serve as her official press release. So we'll just call it that. This is from her Instagram. I'd like to inform everyone that I'm officially pulling out of pro wrestling. I'm not in a great place mentally. I've been struggling with that for a couple of years now. Not too long ago, I worked with someone who I had been looking forward to working. She gave me a great promo and a great match. I gave her a shitty match and a shitty promo because I didn't care to do more. It was so sad that I had no excitement about this show or what I was doing. I realized that day that it's not fair to my opponents or anyone else involved. I don't want to give you all 100% of me, and I can't provide that. I love you all. It's been hard to let it all go because I've loved it for so long. I've been trying to love it like I used to for 3 years now, but it's time to try some new things. Thankfully, my passions in life and things I want to do. Thankfully, I have many passions in life and things I want to do. Some people may think it's annoying that I've been 1 foot in, 1 foot out for a while, which is also hard to cope with. I hope everyone understands that I've just found it way too hard to let go of. but it's time. I've reflected long enough. As of now, I'm releasing it from my life and beginning a new and exciting new chapter. And she ends with, posting a couple of pictures and, just memories of her being in the wrestling business. And a lot of people, popped up and thank you for working with me. I love you, miss you, stuff like that. Marty Bell, Chalance Royal, Red Velvet. I mean, she had a lot of people that she worked with. And I don't want to begin to speculate as to the reasons why, because I'm sure every time I've ever seen this take place, it's been some varied reason. So there's not a lot of speculation that I can add to it. But she's not the first, and unfortunately, she's not going to be the last of people that the wrestling business either burnt out or, it just couldn't maintain the luster and the passion of being there. I am positive that she gave everything that she had while she could, but I also think that, and I cannot prove this, okay? So let me just start with that. That's why I said I didn't want to, speculate beyond a certain point. I'm just adding my 2 cents. I would imagine that some of that would have to be just the wrestling landscape overall. Now, of course, I don't know that, but I would imagine that has something to do with it, because as much as we like to praise, like, oh man, the indies are great and this, that, and the other, and I still think they are, it's not a living. It can teach you a lot. You can learn a lot. You can have some fantastic matches. You can get a lot of attention. If you're really high on the chart, you can make some money and you can, earn a living, but that's based on you being a star at that point. But if you're not, it can be tough. It can be very, very tough. And let's not paint the picture that is not. Working the indies and trying to make ground can be very, very tough. And life can step in. Again, we do not know if something drew the passion away from her to where she just, I don't feel like I want to do this anymore or something like that, then it's probably a better thing for her to step away. It's probably a better thing for her just to get out now before she becomes jaded and bitter or whatever the case may be. Like I said, there have been many different variations of persons that, fair or not, they had to step away from the wrestling business because it just was not doing it for them. The best way that I can describe it is the way that, me and my buddies, he was in the music industry, I was in, TV and movies, and we both described our industries the same way. And so we love the industry that we're in, it just sometimes they don't love us back. And unfortunately, it's like that with a lot of people in the wrestling business too. There's a lot of people that love that industry, but the industry sometimes just doesn't love them back. It doesn't make them less than. It's just, it's a hard business. I used Deion Sanders when he talked to his boys in college. Some of y'all will not just some, a lot of y'all not gonna make it to the NFL. Sorry to break that news to you. A lot of you will not make it. You have to try, but just understand that it is a heavily competitive field. So, you need to have like she said in the post, you need to have other passions. You need to have other things that you can do. Maybe her passion for wrestling will be reignited 5-6 years from now. We don't know. She's still a young lady. It's not like she can't come back to it. And I think the doors will be open. But until that point, we wish her the best. And like I said, I've seen it happen a couple of times. From America Strong, who just could not physically keep doing it because she was in a car accident before she decided to get into the wrestling business, and the bumps just aggravated it. She fought with it for a while, couldn't do it. Jessica Lee, who I absolutely adored, and I wish that she could have made it, but she had bad knees. She wrestled for long with a heavy knee brace, but it just could not keep going. Kayla Lynn, who probably had one of the best shots at being a breakout and becoming a star of some sort, the wrestling business and the persons that were involved in said wrestling business did not help her. That included her then boyfriend at the time. And I don't think I'm breaking any grounds by saying that, because she put up the post herself, putting him on blast. So, I mean, there are so many stories of people who have gotten there, and there's so many stories of people who just, it's time for me to step away. And again, it becomes very unfortunate that some people are placed in a position where it's hard or difficult, or the unfairness of the industry kind of gets them. I don't know if any of these things apply to her. I just bring up those other examples to say that she's not the only one. There have been many that, for whatever reasons, and unfortunately, they could have loved the business. The business may just not have loved them back. Speaking of the business, we go to a championship victory in the NWA. We got new women's tag team champions in the NWA now. And why is that important? Well, for them is because it's now a monopoly. Kenzie Page, the current reigning NWA Women's World's Champion. Big Mama, the current reigning NWA Women's Television Champion, have now secured the NWA World Women's Tag Team Championships by defeating the It Girls, Kenzie Page's former tag team partner Ella Envy and her partner Miss Star. So now we have a situation where all of these titles that exist within the women's division of the NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance, are controlled and owned by two individuals. And that would be those two, Kenzie Page and Big Mama. They are now the tag team champions. And I guess that would put Page at, 3 times? Because her and Envy had it for a while. She's already been, she already is a Grand Slam winner as far as the NWA is concerned. She's already had every championship that is available for her to win as a female competitor. She's been tag team champion as, they didn't call themselves Pretty Empowered. And for those who are unfamiliar with Pretty Empowered, think of a more aggressive Fabulous Four. And if you don't know what I mean when I say more aggressive, just look up one of their 4 women wars or something like that, where they were beating the crap out of each other. So yeah, that's what Pretty Empowered was initially, like a more aggressive Fabulous Four. But yeah, congratulations to them. It does make me question, though, where exactly Kenzie Page goes from here. What else is, maybe she's got a few more feuds left that she can participate in and work through and whatnot, but I really wonder what else is left for her at this point. She's done a lot, and she's young. She doesn't really have a lot of things left. The championships have been secured. She's a dual champion right now. Will she seek greener pastures someplace else? Time will tell, and we will keep our eyes open for that. Natalya has brought up the fact that she has additional goals going forward in the WWE. And to minimize that, those goals are to tell great stories. And here's the one that's more important in my opinion: winning the Women's IC Championship, which would be a nice little thing for her if she can manage to do it. And she's been there for a long time, and she's won championships, but it's it's not like she exists like a Charlotte Flair, and that is like, oh well, it's a guarantee she's gonna get this championship eventually. You know, see that hasn't really been her MO. But it'd be nice for her to get it. I think it would be a great thank you. I already said that I believe that if she's gonna call out Slamovich, whether that be in jest or not, I think that she needs to go the whole while and maybe approach Triple H or Shawn Michaels like, hey, I'm willing to do this. You know, I'm willing to go to their Bound for Glory or whatever pay-per-view they got and put her over, or, you know, at least challenge for the title. Because I think having her name there, at least challenging for it, and within the course of this year, might be a pretty big thing for her. We have our women's inductee in the 2025 WWE Hall of Fame. And I know this is going to be open for debate for some people. It's Michelle McCool, former women's and inaugural WWE Divas champion. She is going in this year. Like I said, I know that some people are going to look at that like, man, she ain't no Hall of Famer. She don't need to go in there. Look, I realized that Michelle McCool existed at a down point specifically for, you know, women's wrestling. But let's not hold that. That's not her fault. That was what the WWE, probably specifically Vince McMahon, wanted. And they were going to be divas and not just women's wrestlers. It's kind of this little weird period in WWE's history where just before you got the Attitude Era where the women could kind of ride off. It's not like they were all over the show and everything, but they at least got some spotlight on them just because it was the Attitude Era. And then you got afterwards Beyond Ruthless Aggression, where they became the Women's Revolution thing. In between that, during the Divas era, particularly during the introduction of the Butterfly Belt, well, they kind of lost a little steam there. And that's the time that she existed, but she did good, in my opinion. She did good there. And I know there's always going to be the person. Well, the only reason that she won is because she married an Undertaker. Look, you got to be able to hold it up on your own at some point. It can't just be because who I'm related to or who I'm married to. It's like Shane McMahon. And we ain't talking about old Shane McMahon who tore his knee at WrestleMania or whatever it is that he did, or the one that come in, 2 seconds later is blown up and red in the face. Back in his day, Shane worked hard. And he worked hard enough to where people took him for being Shane McMahon, not Vince McMahon's son. Not Mickey James, I don't know why I just said her, but Michelle McCool at some point had to be able to deliver the goods in the ring. And it's unfortunate that she never had an opponent to really push her or get her into a rivalry, a feud, a match, or something like that would stand the test. Like, for whatever you might say, and I'll use Gail Kim and Awesome Kong as an example. That rivalry, that feud will stand the test, and it has stood the test. I mean, we're almost 20 years in. Well, 20 years in now. Not almost. Yeah, I think it's right on that. I have to check my days, but if it's not at 20, we're right underneath it. And those matches still hold up. They were great. But that wasn't what WWE was pushing at the time. So, Michelle McCool comes up short in that. I do find it interesting that she would say something along the lines like, well, no one's ever approached me about it, but going someplace else or, wrestling outside of WWE. But I also say to that, like, no woman, very few of them have ever left WWE and even wanted to wrestle beyond that, except for Tara and Mickey James. But beyond that, most of them leave and then just like, oh, I'm good. I don't want to wrestle anyplace else. I'm sure Michelle McCool could have gone someplace else if she chose to do it. But since she didn't, she did not go anywhere else. And lastly, the WWE has gone and trademarked a bunch of names. So you got some names that you can look forward to. I think Jordyn Grace had fun with this when she saw the list, because somebody was like, I think Jordyn Grace is getting a new name. It's like, I can't believe that they would have this girl who's been on their TV multiple times as a special guest entrant at the Royal Rumble, and then again, you see her at NXT and challenging for the NXT Women's Championship, having people, being highly featured around the world, featured on TNA's wrestling. I can't imagine that they would turn around and be like, all right, we got to give you a WWE name now. That just, not saying they're above doing it, but I cannot imagine, like, why would you do that? But anyway, the names that have been trademarked so far: Osiris Griffin, Hayes Jameson, Trill London. That's the name that Jordyn Grace like, I'll take Trill London, which was funny, I gotta admit. Harley Riggins, Summer Sorrell, Jax Priestley, Mason Holiday, Draco Knox, Tate Wilder, Braxton Cole, Chantel Monroe, and Ariel Bennett. The only person that has been illustrated and shown as to have gotten a name assigned to them so far is a young lady by the name of Haley Montoya. It appears that she will be Hayes Jameson going forward. That is what she has now on her Twitter handle. I don't know. I'm not going to refer to it as goddamn X. And that's what's going on right now, folks. There's a lot of little things that have been taking place. And I just, before I end off, I just want to come back around again and say to Dani Jordyn, sorry to see you leave out of the wrestling. I doubt if she ever hear this, but just publicly, sorry that you're leaving the wrestling business, that you're stepping down. I'm glad that I got the opportunity to interview you when you were just kicking off your career, and best of luck in whatever you take place in the future. That being said, I'm going to use this as my break point, and when we get back, it'll be time to go into the full review. Wow, Women of Wrestling. Stay tuned. So here we are, ladies and gentlemen, back to another review of the most recent episode of Wild Women of Wrestling, and this one has the opening slate. Well, the episode slate. We won't say the opening slate. It has the episode slate of WoW. Episode 322. That is season 3, episode 22 for them. The title, Dolls and Playthings. The air date was February 8th, and the chronological number is 126. The show opened up with Genesis coming out to the ringside, getting ready to start her match. Of course, McLean recaps her entire history with Exile. Nothing wrong with that, I guess. But this is also being played up that her goal is to become champion all over, same thing that has been. The first thing that I noticed is I'm not really sure as to why she tosses up the X sign when she gets ready to get into her fighting stance. Like, why is that a thing? I understood it when she was part of Exile because it seemed symbolic of that. Now it just seems out of place. And it seems like a weird thing to do for me to get ready to grapple. But yeah, she just, she puts up the X signs for a now defunct team, which is the attention was brought to by Dave McLean saying, she's exiled everybody. She exiled herself, which is a stupid statement. Exiled herself. How about that she just left the team? She dismantled it. I mean, I know he's trying to rope in the name of the team to what he's saying, but no, it didn't come off well to me. So let's start off with the obvious. Xena Phoenix comes out the ringside, and a complete foreshadowing of who was going to win this match was introduced within seconds. And well, when the bell rang, and that Xena Phoenix has yet to lose. I wrote down she's losing today. And spoiler alert, I wasn't wrong. I don't know why it is, but anytime they have done that, where they just bring up out of nowhere, well, you know, so-and-so's never been knocked off her feet, then she's probably going off of her feet. Well, I've never seen this team lose, David. Then they're probably losing. And this is not anything new. This is an ongoing thing. It's like when either Zane or McClain say something out of the blue pertaining to one of their wrestlers. They hadn't lost before. They hadn't done this before. We've never seen that. Well, that thing is probably about to happen. I would say 9 out of the 10 times. If it's ever introduced like that, good chance that is going to take place. And this was not different. There's a good chance it took place, and it did. So, the match was not a surprise, although the match was fair to watch. Didn't have a problem with the match in and of itself. Genesis, in this case, is being presented as a veteran, and I guess by comparison, she is. She has slightly more in-ring experience than Phoenix does. But in the Wild universe, she is more accomplished, I suppose. So this match takes place. The first thing that goes on beyond Genesis giving the old X sign is that Phoenix grabs the right leg and hoists Genesis over to the ropes, or Genesis at least gets to the ropes. So it's being presented as a newcomer / rookie versus the veteran, a grappler against a more accomplished competitor. So much to the point you get Genesis, who more or less puts Xena Phoenix over when they start off. Genesis turns to the commentators like, oh, hey, look, David, she's good. You should do something with her. She's pretty good. Reaches her hand out to shake it, and then, of course, she reaches in to shake it also, and then takes a kick to the side. And they trade a few kicks back and forth. I don't know why Genesis, after taking advantage of this situation, did not take advantage of what she just did, but that's neither here nor there. Side note, it finally occurred to me what it is about that crowd that bothers me. Like, I've looked at it a couple of times, and, you know, I said they look like they're paid attendees and this, that, and the other, and they do. But I don't know if I've ever articulated what it is that they are doing that makes me feel that way. And then, oddly enough, as I was watching the Super Bowl, it hit me. Cheerleaders. That's it. That's what that crowd is. It's a stand full of cheerleaders. Or every once in a while they'll cheer or they'll boo when they seemingly are cued to do it. But other than that, all this audience does is sit there, smile, clap, and clap the thunderclappers together. And that's pretty much it. They don't do much more than that. Yes, you will get somebody every once in a while on the front row that'll give a thumbs down, or somebody in the stands that might boo, or whatever the case, you know, something different than everybody else. But by and large, when you look at that audience, they all do the same thing. There's no, we like this person to dislike that one. It is follow the cues and applaud. This match is scheduled for one fall, all of that. There is just a bunch of drones in there applauding nonstop, no matter what is going on in the ring. Again, every once in a while, you'll get somebody that'll do something that'll break them out of it, and you might get a legitimate, organic response. But beyond that, it's just, all right, guys, just slap the goddamn thunderclappers together and participate, and, you know, hey, look lively on screen. We're on TV. You know, that's what it comes across like to me. So we will go through the rest of the match, and it was was a pretty good match. I'm not going to take anything away from it. It has its down points. Like, I don't think that Xena Phoenix is really good at running the ropes. For whatever reason, she just looks kind of weird when she hits it. But I say that about everybody that's there because they run and they turn their entire body. Like, it doesn't, it's not a smooth run of the ropes, in my opinion. I'm sure there are other people there that will say it, but yeah, just doesn't come off like that. So Genesis, like I said earlier, was being presented as the wrestler. Not the wrestler, the veteran. McClain says that she's never faced a competitor like this. I wrote she hasn't. I really find that difficult to believe. I mean, because theoretically, if she's ever been in the ring with Keita Rush, then she's faced a competitor like this before. Somebody who has a grappling background. Although be it maybe in a different discipline, but she's faced off against somebody else who's been pretty much like this. I will give Genesis this much. I think that she's improved. She's still not quite where she could or should be. But she has, I will use the line that I used for the natural born legend, Crystal Rose, and that she has exquisite use of her legs. That was a large part of Rose's offense. And Genesis seems very much built in the same mold of that. I hate that she comes out with nunchucks because it does create the situation where people will start to question whether she's legitimate with it or not. And it is everything that I said before. Like the moment people get the idea that this is phony, cartoony, fake, this is not as good as fill in the blank wrestling promotion, whatever. Everything, regardless of whether they do it well or not, comes underneath scrutiny. And her doing the nunchucks is probably no different. I mean, I sat there and I've heard it. And I've read some of it in the comments. What's she doing that for? She don't know how to use nunchucks. Like, well, I'm pretty sure she knows it better than most people out there. Because she took a little stagger when she did it, at the beginning of this match doesn't mean she didn't know how. She just it might not have been smooth. But unfortunately, that remains a thing with WoW, is that one thing can and will give the impression over everybody. But let us continue on. So there's a point in the match, and like I said, there's no spoiler. There's no surprise here. I already gave the spoiler. There's a point in the match where Genesis ropes Xena Phoenix's throat over the second rope, but for some reason, then she decides to use her leg to choke her anyway. I didn't really get that. I'm like, you're already over the rope. Why are you using your leg to do it? So, the referee breaks that up. This is where she uses, as I said, that the exquisite use of her legs, a back kick, front shot in the mouth, and whatnot. She gave a roundhouse earlier when Phoenix was in the corner. So she does very well. And not only does Genesis do very well, but in the sense of the grappling, Phoenix does well also. She's a lot smoother. Like her strong points, the arm drag, the hip toss that she does, looking like she is doing some level of joint manipulation. Those things, I think, are her overall strong suits as it relates to her. So when she's in the corner and Genesis is getting up and she charges in, she does a really smooth arm drag. And then she gets it with the what we used to refer to as the Japanese arm drag. I don't know what they call it now. It might be inverted. And then she gets it with a judo throw following that. And all of those things, other than maybe a little stumble, look pretty good. Phoenix gives a roll through, hoists Genesis up on her shoulders. Genesis tries to fight to break out of that with a couple of shots to the side of the head, which gets her down. And then a nice elbow into the guts, hoists her up on her own. Phoenix is then able to try to get something out of that when she converts that into the beginning phases of a choke. Look like she's trying to apply a rear naked choke onto her. Genesis then walks her back into the turnbuckle. She's able to break herself free, able to do it with a, the extension of the arm and whatnot. It was a nice counter if you just look at how she applied it. Gets Phoenix down on her feet, then she hits her with a full Nelson slam. 1, 2, 3, she's done. Phoenix goes down. As I said, this was a foreshadowed outcome, so I wasn't really surprised about it. This was more or less a clean win. I don't know what they're planning to do with Genesis or where she's going, but she's a heel, kind of, and she's continued to win, but will she go anywhere beyond that? Once the match is over, she gets the microphone, she cuts a promo, and I will say right now, aside from maybe delivery, her content in that promo was better than most other people on that roster. There was a point to it. Even if she had to rope it around, there was a point to it. Now, so I don't know whether it was written for her. I don't know whether she did it on her own. But it at least was a promo that went somewhere and made sense. She gets the microphone and she starts talking about, ultimately her goals, but she introduces the idea that, hey, look, she would have been there and been the champion had she not been eliminated by a tag team in the Battle Royal. Putting herself in a position of, one person couldn't do it to me, it took two. Then she said, well, that's okay, because now I got my sights set on you. And she basically brings up the Classmaster by name. And it's like, if you're that tough, I'm paraphrasing. If you're that tough, then why don't you give me a shot? And you can bring Smarty Pants out here with you. I enjoyed this. Not really sure if I am looking forward to a heel versus heel match, but I'm glad that she gave purpose to what she's doing. Everybody else seems like they just kind of float around and I'm just doing this, that, and the other, and everybody can have an angle or a story. And truthfully, Genesis doesn't have an angle or a story, but she has at least given a purpose to her being there. Wanted to be a solo act. I want to be the champion. And I'm going to do what I have to do to be the champion. This was presented somehow as an upset. I don't know what that was about. That just seemed kind of ridiculous that this would be perceived as an upset of any sort. But, whatever. This, like I said, this was a clean win. And they talk up this is the first loss for Xena Phoenix. I wrote down because who cares that is in her third or fourth match? And it might be her third. Somewhere in there. But she hasn't had a long enough streak for her losing to mean anything. There's no merit to it. If she had gone 6 months worth of just beating everybody in sight and then Genesis knocked her off, that would be different. But as it is, she's just another face on the roster. It means nothing. And when we say that she, this is her first loss, we'll specify to say first loss in a singles environment. But again, why would this be something to be concerned or care about? That part I don't know, because I can't get behind it just because there hasn't been something there to get behind. You need to have more equity in her win streak for that to be something of any concern. She didn't have enough equity in that. And I do believe that might have been the first. She was on a losing team, but she didn't take the fall. So it is her first loss, certainly first in singles. Not the first time being on a team that lost. She just didn't lose herself. So anyway, we get past that. We get past the promo. We go to the next segment. The next segment is backstage. It's Samantha Smart. And this is coming off of the cameras going to the commentating table, and they say, hey, we got cameras in the back. Let's see what they're talking about. So the camera goes backstage, and this was, well, in my opinion, this was stupid. But because I don't get to react. This is like the second time that we've seen Samantha Smart do this exact same thing. I'm standing here with the door wide open, talking to the mute who is the Classmaster. And they're looking at, assumably, a TV or a monitor. We don't know that because we can't see it. And she's apparently reacting to the promo that Genesis just gave. And Samantha's like, who does she think she is? And da-da-da-da-da. And then she turns and in the open door sees the cameraman or the camera. And what are you doing? Get out of here. Close. She demands the door get closed. And, of course, Classmaster runs up and closes the door. And first off, the audio is bad here. It's very echoey, which makes me tend to believe that either during this shoot somebody forgot to turn on the boom mic or the boom wasn't available. So they just used the microphone, the internal mic that's on the camera, which is how you get, or at least one of the ways how you get an echoey sound like that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and listen to it and then listen to some of the audio that takes place on the show. Like I said, it's kind of echoey. So we have that. But first thing I wrote was like, why is this shocking for her when you left your door wide open? This would be like the equivalent of a supermodel dressing in an apartment that is 80% open windows and then being mad at the guys on the street stopping to look. Like, how dare you look at me with this, that. And then again, like I said, this is a thing that they did with her already. I don't know why they're repeating it. They didn't add anything, didn't do anything for them other than just put them on TV, I guess. So they are surprised and then they move on. The next thing, they are promoting the Mighty Mites in their upcoming match. I don't want to get on McClain for every little thing, but sometimes the verbiage that he may use throws me off. He talks about the Mighty Mites are coming to WoW. And I wrote down, aren't they there already? Now, I know what he meant. They'll be upcoming in the next match. But saying it the way that he did made it like, well, they'll be here in our promotion in the near future, that type of thing. I just think it should have been phrased differently, quite honestly, so that it can get the point across without being confusing to other people that might have tuned in and like, what is this their debut match? No, it's not the debut. He just phrased it wrong. The next thing, the next segment was a promo for Fury and Miranda Mirage as a team. I wrote down why. This is where I started kind of losing the feel of this show because I already walked into it with like, all right, I'm going to give this a chance. They got some hodgepodge teams on here, but maybe there's a rhyme or a reason to it. I don't know. We'll see. But there isn't. There is no rhyme or reason to this. It just is. And it reinforces everything I said. It feels like she's rudderless. She's just wandering around on this show. There's nothing that she is doing of any note. And just tossing her in one team after another. It started off with, and I think that's what bothers me about that is like they started trying to explain why she was with Sylvia Sanchez. Now, let's rotate back a little bit because the first thing was the explanation as to why she was no longer with the Heavy Metal Sisters and that she was now the Heavy Metal Sister and that she was going after the gold. But then that turned into, well, she thought that she'd have a better chance, or they thought they would have a better chance together. So her and Sylvia Sanchez have formed this new team. Then she went back to just not doing that. Then I think she got tossed into another tag team. And then now she's with Miranda Mirage. I was like, Fury has no rhyme or reason, and they have the most loose-knit reasons as to why they are together. Magic and rock and roll go together. Oh, come on. And this is supposed to be because it was in the cards of Siren. That's what David McClain said. He gave some loose, stupid answer as to why this team was formed. So that Siren saw it in the cards that, my once hated enemy will be the perfect tag team partner for Miranda Mirage. And to repeat what I said, Fury's not just floating from one team to the next. She's completely aimless. During this match, also, McClain explains that Chella and Roxy are going to face Miami Sweet Heat because Foxy's hurt. Okay. But my question was, and this has nothing to do with the match that we're talking about right now. I only bring it up because he brought it up during this match. Why not just Holidead and Chella? That's her normal tag team partner. Or for that matter, Chella and Kalaki or, some other team altogether. Why did it have to turn into a hodgepodge? Because the moment you saw that, I was like, all right, yeah, I'm pretty sure that Miami Sweet Heat is not losing to some random pairing. Honestly, I was surprised at this match. But given how they've had the Mighty Mites presented so far, I guess I should not be. So back to the match here. We get the dumb explanation as to why they are together. They come on out. I'm so sorry, Siren. I love you. But I am so sorry that you have to be involved in this nonsense. And Fury. I'm sorry to you two. I did both of you. I love you both. Mirage I've not met. I doubt that I ever will. And I certainly don't perceive her as having some sort of long-term wrestling career once WoW is done with her or she's done with WoW. She'll go back to doing whatever the hell she was doing preceding that. So, yeah, I mean, this match, regardless of outcome, somewhat makes me sad. So, the heels entered the ring. Then we got the Mighty Mites coming out, and we see the video for them, and, you got the little Toro moment. And I have to say, for the room, and again, for people who don't know, I'll look at this, largely while we're monitoring television stations from across the country at work. So I get a lot of questions as to who these people are and why they're doing what they're doing and so on and so forth. The question of the day was, why is she acting like a bull? The video where you see Sugar hold her cape up and then Spice runs through it. I told her, I don't know. They never explained it. They never said there's some matador background or, her dad was a matador, so she's treating it as this or whatever. They've never explained why Spice has to be forced into a smile during the studio package video. I don't know if they've ever had a promo together. I don't know anything about them other than that they're Sugar and Spice. Which, a couple of things with that. One, the Mighty Mites, Sugar and Spice, sounds like it's overdone. I mean, the more I hear it, it's like, I really wish they'd just pick one or the other. Either be the Mighty Mites and give them some normal wrestling names, or just be Sugar and Spice, because Sugar and Spice operates as a team name to begin with. It just feels like it's over-gimmicked. The Mighty Mites, Sugar and Spice, that sounds like two different names. Two different team names at that. So I don't know. Secondly, I have resigned myself to the fact that the Mites are just there to help other people look good. Nothing wrong with that. But I wish that, in my view, they should have a different position. But that's the position that WoW has decided for them. So their job is just to put other people over. You win every once in a while, but generally speaking, they're just there to make the other people look good. And lastly, the third thing with them is a comment that was brought up by a coworker of mine there. So he walks in when the mics are coming out. And they're wearing their capes, and he's like, these look like two children coming into the ring. And I asked, I was like, well, why does it look like it's like those capes? Those capes look like they just got them from Party City or something. It's like I could take them more seriously if they didn't have the damn capes. And I didn't think about that before until he said it. But I can see where he's coming from with it because nobody else there wears a cape. And I get that they had the old superhero motif and all that stuff like that, but he's not wrong because the mites have a very basic color scheme. They don't have the most intricate outfits. And then they have the capes on top of it. I mean, it does look like, you know, we just found some fabric and tied it around our necks. And the fact that they're kind of diminutive does not help the fact that they come off like two kids. So I get it. And the only thing that makes those capes even remotely look like they had any work done to them is like they got the name Mighty Mites on it. And that's about it. So they come out the ringside, and I was assuming that they might give the Mites a win here because they were the established team. I was like, there's no way that the Mighty Mites should walk into this thing and lose to some team that just got thrown together. That shouldn't happen. How foolish I was. So the match starts out with Miranda Mirage. Well, if we wanted to use the full alliteration, Magnificent Miranda Mirage. I haven't seen the Magnificent quite yet, but, you know, hey, there's still time. So she starts off the match. She starts off with Spice, and there's a little exchange between the two before Spice is sent into the ropes, and she comes back with a nice shoulder block right into the guts of Mirage, and she goes outside the ring, which brings in Fury. And so now we've got Spice and we got Fury in the ring, and Fury gets taken down, and Spice is giving her a couple of shots while Fury is neutralized on her knees. She goes for the cover, of course, Fury gets out. Now, the team of the Mites, they look good together, and they always have in the time that I've seen them, aside from their debut match. For the life of me, I'll never understand why they like debuting these new heroes and with a package and making them out to be a big deal only to come into a loss. And in their case, they didn't just come into a loss, they came into a squash loss. But that's neither here nor there. So we get the other half of the Mites in to go against Fury. We got Sugar in there. I still don't get the names. It seems a bit overdone for me. And the more I think about it, the more I feel like it is very, very, very overdone. Getting towards all this stuff. Anyway, Siren, I forgot to mention her. She is in the corner of all of this. Apparently as some version of a linchpin to this hodgepodge team of Fury and Mirage. I don't know why it has come to this other than maybe some people got hurt or I'm not here. I can't do this for whatever reasons. But we got this team, and they are okay against the team of the Mites. Fury definitely. Fury gets into a position in the ring where she is up against Sugar, and she uncorks a huge backhand across the face of Sugar, and it looked great, and she sold it great. Fury sends her into the waiting foot, I guess, of Mirage, who has placed her foot up on the top rope, and Sugar comes charging off into it, or be thrown into it face first, right? Then we get the foot choke that Miranda Mirage does, which is also the exact same style of choke that Katarina Jinx does. I am not overall a fan of people using spots of similar ilk. I mean, you know, really definitive spots like that. That would be considered a really definitive spot. In cases like that, I think it needs to belong to either one or the other rather than, multiple people doing the same thing. Mirage, I can appreciate the effort that she's doing. But when I see her work, I see a wild girl working. The time, yammering with the crowd like, yeah, look at me, the stuff like that. Will she have time to get better? Time will tell. But as of right now and as of in this match, she did not do a bad job. I just think that she is also in there with people who are clearly more accomplished than she is. And she shouldn't take every second that she gets free to go mugging against the camera and whatnot. So she takes advantage of Sugar, sends it back into the corner. We make a tag out to Fury. Siren is standing out there. She's smiling and enjoying herself. Fury sends Sugar up to the second ropes. She comes in and gives her a quick charge, lands on her back. Then she does her little head-banging deal against the second rope while Sugar's selling the fact that she's being choked out. The match in and of itself, although not bad, I mean, it is just a match. I didn't really know what they were trying to get from this. And I say it because traditional thoughts would give you the idea that the Mites would score a big win, considering that this is a team that just got put together this episode. However, that was not in the cards for them, no pun intended. When we get to the end and Spice is in the ring, she hoists, towards the end. We're getting towards the end here. She hoists Mirage up on her shoulders. Mirage then rakes the eyes of Spice, which gets her down, and she's able to run off and make the tag. Meanwhile, Siren, at some point during this exchange, runs around and yanks Sugar off of the apron so that she's been completely neutralized, and this happens behind the referee's back, which was a good job by Siren. Fury comes into an already irate Spice and hits her with her finish, Flight of Fury, and then 1, 2, 3, our, I guess, new tag team has won the match. I, again, did not really dislike the match. I just thought that the established team would succeed here, which they did not. And it was a clean, well, more or less, it was a clean win by the heels. Other than Siren going over there and stopping Sugar, it was basically a clean win. I don't know where this is going with them. Is this going to be some ongoing thing, or are we going to see 2 weeks from now Fury have a whole new partner? I don't know. If anybody comes in with any level of rock and roll or heavy metal gimmick, I'm pretty sure it will change. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So now we go to another segment. This segment is a recap of the Chainsaw Pep Riley angle / storyline. And that's all well and fine. I couldn't really get myself to dislike it. Not that I was looking for it, but I also wasn't looking to be like, oh man, this is great. It just was kind of a neutral gear for me as far as seeing these two. Now, when their storyline kicked off initially, I was okay with it. I was pretty good about that because I was like, well, at least it's something different, and they seem to be committed to it, and it's going somewhere. And I felt that way pretty much up until now. Now is where it's like, you have now made me lose interest. And I lost interest the moment that Pep Riley walked out to her match, but we'll get to that. So we go through the recap. Then it's the next segment. That segment is Chainsaw and Pep Riley having a backstage exchange. And keep in mind that this is supposed to have been a week ago, right? This is supposed to have taken place following the recap of stuff that we just saw, which is also one of those reasons of like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be getting from this. Is this supposed to be in complete continuity? Because when we saw them up in the ramp walking away, they were walking pretty much hand in hand at that point. Then all of a sudden, Chainsaw just decided to carry Pep Riley to the back room. So we get to the back room, and then we get to her, what is assumed to be her locker room, and we got all these miniature chainsaws just laying around, and I'm looking at it, it's like, what the hell is this? Why do we have these things just hanging around? It's the same thing that I was complaining about last season, whatever season it was, with the mother truckers. Like, we just have to have tie wraps and bungee cords and truck stop signs and this, that, and the other in what is supposed to be our locker room. Does everybody just have a specific decor to the locker room? Does everybody get their own? Because if that's the case, it was the whole reason that Animal Instinct and Big Rigs and Bourbon are in a feud to begin with. Because, well, they got this stuff in their locker room. Like, everybody has a locker room assumably attuned to their personalities, which I don't understand that. What are these tiny chainsaws hanging around for? So anyhow, and the segment, once she being Pep Riley is carried in, she sits down and Chainsaw reaches over and gives her a box. Now, of course, Chainsaw is a mute and she's incapable of the English language, so all you get out of her is like, Pep Riley is given a box. She reaches in, she gets this doll out, and she's like, oh, that looks like me with the pink hair, with the blonde hair, and this, that, and the other. And then Chainsaw also gives her a camcorder from, many, many moons ago. Assumably, this camcorder has just been kept charged up for just such an emergency when I want to show somebody my brutal past, I guess. So she gives her this camcorder, and she's like, oh, you want me to shoot a video? It's like, no. And she points at the thing and has her look at the video that not only is the camera already powered up, but is already queued to, I guess, to whatever it is that she wants her to see. So this is clearly already playing. Never mind the fact that the camera is already sitting there waiting for these two to come in to what is supposed to be a locker room. I mean, it looks just like a corner off in the back wall somewhere. So Pep Riley looks at this, and we don't see any of it as normal. We don't know what it's talking about. It's not talked about. It's not explained. We just have suspenseful music playing in the background, so that makes it even more fake. And then, like always, David McClain has to explain it later. Riley looks disturbed by whatever it is and has some sort of sympathy and reaches out and grabs her hand, and Chainsaw, just looks like, whatever she's saying. I don't speak Chainsaw. The camera closes up on their hands bonded together in unison of, this is, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I was watching. I really don't. I don't know what this is and what this is supposed to be. It's just a showcase of ridiculousness, not because of the participants involved, it's because the poor storytelling in the WoW. They were doing fine mostly up to this point. Except for they wandered off into normal WoW storytelling land where nothing that is supposed to get you excited for or sympathetic to or emotionally involved in was ever shown on screen. We never saw the abuse that Chainsaw got either before or now. We only talked about it or we heard about it. Normally through the words of David McClain. So you didn't see it leading into this. You didn't see anything on the tape. I'm not even sure if we heard some torturous sound like, "Oh my God, stop!" Whatever. Something that would help illustrate what was going on a little bit more. I probably would have accepted it more if we had heard say Angelica Dante's voice in the background yelling and screaming at her, do it again, or you hear a whip, or something, but we didn't get any of that. This was very melodramatic, but it didn't deliver the drama. So I don't know. I don't know. So we get out of this, and then it comes to what the next thing was like. I don't know where we are going with this because it seems very, very disjointed. Because following this segment, now we've got the Sibley Scoles segment of the week. And I am just going to go ahead and say right now, Sibley Scoles is a fine reporter. She's a fine sideline interviewer. And she has a good presence on camera and great delivery. She just does not do well as a wrestling interviewer. She adds nothing to this. And I'm sorry to say that, but she adds nothing to this. Sibley Scoles does not push forward any sort of angle. Sibley Scoles does not react or deliver towards anybody's personality. She doesn't give anything that would be considered either a character build or a build on the angles in front of her. So I'll repeat, as good as she is, and she is good, she's not a good wrestling interviewer. Either she does not understand what it is that she needs to do as a wrestling interviewer, or she has not been told how to do it. Everybody is her buddy. And other than Samantha Smart coming out there giving her crap, we didn't even see the end of that. It just like cut away. So I honestly do not see where this gives any sort of growth to anybody that's there. And I think that they could have gotten somebody out of a broadcast school to do her job at this point. And I'm truly saying this with all due respect to Sibley Scoles. I've looked her up and I've seen her in other things, and she's good. She just isn't good here. So what we got now is we got Veronica VaRoom, dumb name, coming in, and she's getting interviewed by Scoles. Now, the highlight of this segment is that VaRoom does have a good rap. She's good on the mic, at least in this environment. Out in the ring, she sounds like she's performing. Here, she sounded more genuine as to being who she was, or, who Veronica VaRoom should be. Scoles just kind of stands there smiling and, So again, she doesn't add anything to this. She's a mic stand in this environment. If you were looking at this coming in cold, you probably wouldn't even get the idea that Veronica is supposed to be vicious by any stretch of the imagination. Sibley doesn't play it up. It doesn't put anything forward toward the match that she's about to have. It doesn't add anything to any sort of angle that she being Veronica, might participate in. It's just like two buddies talking. And unless she's like the mega baby face in that place, I don't know if it should be that. What should be happening here, in my opinion, is that whatever, quote, viciousness Veronica VaRoom has, this is the time to get that over. Or it's the time to try and get it over. And it doesn't exist. Not happening. So, whereas it does give time for VaRoom to kind of shine who she is, or, put a spotlight on that, in the grand scheme of it, it didn't give any weight to anything else. It's Not a wow promo. I don't want to just say that because it is a step above just a vague, go nowhere, do nothing promo. So in this instance, Veronica, in my opinion, delivered on what she was supposed to deliver. I just don't think Scoles gave her what she needed in order to try to push this off, because Scoles she's like acting along with her. She's, got the facial expression like, no one's used pipsqueak in a while. Ha, ha, ha. Stuff like that. And all it does, it comes off, like I said, it just comes off like two buddies just shooting the breeze back and forth. And Scoles like, yes. Oh, that's great. Ha, ha. It just looks like a good time. It doesn't do anything for the persona of Scoles. And even when at the end she's like, we'll be right back and do the thing right. She puts the microphone back and gives a like an okay sign and whatnot. It largely feels more like this is a thing just for, to get Sibley Scoles over rather than anybody that she's interviewing. Or pad her resume as a interviewer. That's what this largely feels like to me. It doesn't feel like anything else. And the goodness that we had there, it started and it stopped right then. Because the next segment and the next match should not have ever been on TV. I'm sorry to both Pep Riley and Veronica VaRoom, but let's just go ahead and say it now. This match should have never made air. I'm sure they're both nice enough. I'm sure they both tried very, very hard. But this shouldn't have been, especially in a taped environment, this shouldn't have made air. The first thing that we get is, goddamn, top to bottom, commentary, in-ring work, all of this, none of this was good for me. Starting with McLean, insulting New York. The second that she comes out there, yeah, she's got a big mouth like a lot of New Yorkers. So like, is he a heel commentator or what? Why would you say that? I'm not even from New York, but why would you say that? Whether it's true, I mean, those lines come from the heel announcer. He doesn't have a straight, clear path of what he is. Never mind the fact that during this match, he did the same damn thing that he did with her originally. And, she'll be up at the Palace, whatever the town she is. I got Pasadena. She'll be at the comedy club, and she knows how to tell a joke, too. I was like, that does not help me believe in this person as some sort of vicious act. And like I said, the good in her started at that interview and it stopped in that interview, because the second she came through the curtain, she was just all overplayed and overdone and overacting to every degree that you could possibly think of. She doesn't look like she is vicious. She looks like she's playing the role of being vicious. Now, is she in real life? I don't know. But she does not look legitimate in her acting coming out there. She's just overdone. It's like Rebel Hayes all over again. Just, yeah, look at me. Blah. It's like, all right, this is what wrestlers do, so let me do that. It's the most stereotypical version of a pro wrestler that you could think of wrapped up in her package. And then you got Pep Riley, who comes out next. You see the video with her in her Pep Riley form and doing the cheer and everything, and then it cuts to her standing at the top of the ramp, slowly morphing into Harley Quinn. She walks out without the pom-poms, and she walks out with more makeup on. She's got more attitude, and then the first thing I'm thinking is like, where is this going? This part is now confusing because, okay, we just went through several weeks of her trying to save, quote unquote, Chainsaw from the clutches of her evil sister. And she does it. She gets her away from her, and then we see this sympathetic moment of, oh, you poor thing, how abused you were, however it was, because we never saw it. But then we see her now, and she's coming out here, and she's somehow transformed into or developed a darker edge to her. I was like, okay, so what's going on here? Did she save Chainsaw from the clutches of someone evil only to be slowly morphed into being evil? How and why is this happening? I don't get the idea that Chainsaw is somehow some sort of brilliant cult leader who's able to bend people to her will. She doesn't strike me as that, particularly with her having no concept or mastery over the English language. How is this taking place? Don't turn around and be like, well, there's some sort of mysticism that she's possessing her slowly. Because I believe that WoW would do some dumb shit like that. But still, how is this happening? Why is this happening? So she's got new demeanor. She's got new attitude. And that was the first thing I wrote. Why is this? How's this happening here? And then this match is just like a one botch after another. Is it the worst match I've ever seen in my life? No. But it is not good, and it shouldn't have happened. It is not doing either one of these ladies, much less the company, any favors. I cannot say it enough. You get somebody that comes on their TV and they screw up. It is not reflective of them. It reflects on everybody on that roster. That is a broad brush to paint. And I know they're thinking like, well, you know, there's always people in there like, well, this is a great match. This is good. Pep Riley's firing. You're always going to get that. But come on, man. It's the other people. The wild crowd is like the AEW faithful. It doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter what the booking is. It doesn't matter how it's presented. They're always going to say the AEW is great. And you guys just don't understand. Meanwhile, their ratings are steadily tanking. And Tony Khan just keeps wanting to write for them. But that's not helping his overall product. That's what this is like. Now, we can't prove that the ratings are tanking. We can't prove that because they stopped putting the ratings out. But like I said, by the time the ratings were done being publicly released, they had lost like 300,000 viewers in the course of like a month and a half. And I can't imagine that they just magically got those viewers back. Maybe they did. I don't know, but I cannot imagine that they just out of the clear goddamn blue, oh man, we're back up to 500,000 viewers watching us every week. And things like this don't help it. So let's look at the match. It starts off well enough. Again, I don't know what Pep Riley's deal is because she was a babyface. I was happy that Veronica at least called out some of her background in the promo. So, like I said, the promo was fine. The interviewer wasn't, but the promo was fine. They kick off, and Pep Riley does a tumble roll through, and then she gets a nice roll up on VaRoom as she tries to give her a big boot in the mouth, I guess. And that didn't go anywhere. Then she tries a double axe handle, gets caught in the guts, shot off into the ropes, and here's where comes the first botch. Pep Riley goes into the turnbuckle. She tries to shoot over top of VaRoom. The timing was bad on one of their parts, if not both. So she shoots over, VaRoom tries to run in, and then Riley lands on top of her back. And no one's going to convince me that they did that on purpose. Let's stop. So then they have a little hesitation point, and then they get themselves realigned. Riley comes in, and then she charges. Looks like they were trying to go for something else, and it got converted into a sunset flip, or maybe they were trying to do a sunset flip initially, and they just didn't do the speed for it, I guess. I don't know. So that happens. VaRoom kicks out, and then we send Riley into the turnbuckle. She being VaRoom tries to charge in. Riley gets out of the way, hits her with a cartwheel in the back. I'm going to assume either the elbow in the mouth or the stutter step snap mare is what busted Veronica's lip or tongue or wherever she busted it. So that was the second one. Then we get, after the snap mare, Veronica has to sit there and wait for Pep Riley to do her cheer number. And I don't know why we still doing the cheer thing. I asked this question several weeks ago. Why is she still in the cheer gimmick? There is no team spirit. There's no need for this. So she gets her drop kick on a seated Veronica VaRoom, who is able to kick out of that. Then we get what looks like a jump cut because she stands up, and the next thing I know, that VaRoom has got Riley by her hair and just kind of tosses her down. This is the corner shoulder block spot. It doesn't bother me so much, but one of the guys in there was like, I hate that spot. Now, he wasn't talking about with her specifically, but just in general, because everybody does the same thing. They kind of shoot themselves up in the turnbuckles. So Pep Riley gets whipped across from one side to the next. And then we get some blatant spot calling right in front of the camera. I don't know why they kept that angle. VaRoom sends her into the ropes, gives her a shoulder block, does the normal wild thing. I got to yammer with the crowd. Then we get a body slam by Veronica VaRoom, who starts yammering with the crowd or making her noises, doing the normal wild stuff. It's moments like that when I'm like, this is why I say that she just looks like she's playing the part rather than just going. She's constantly like, yeah, she's that every opening that she gets, that's what's happening. Veronica gets her seated into a camel clutch of sorts. This is the first time that we get some sort of, I guess, change or in how she acts with Pep Riley and that she bit her in order to get out of it. Is Pep Riley going heel now? What is happening here? What is this transformation? Why is this transformation? So she gets out and she gets into the corner. Veronica charges in. Pep Riley is able to stop her by getting her elbow up, and that backs Veronica off. And then they sit there, and it's like Veronica didn't know what to do for 2 or 3 seconds. Like, what are you doing? Well, come on, And then she gets up. I skipped ahead. Then VaRoom charges in, and she gets caught with the double feet. Riley goes up to the second rope, and then VaRoom charges back in again, and I don't know what was going on here. Riley just came down on VaRoom. It's like it should have been a high cross body maybe, or a sunset flip off the second, but neither one of those things happened. Riley tries to come off of the second rope, and Veronica's stooped over like she's ready for a sunset flip. So Riley's stomach goes right into the head of Veronica VaRoom. Another screw up, because again, no one's going to convince me that was on purpose. Then we get the throwing of the punches to a highly elevated forearm of Veronica, which looks terrible. If you can't get it close to her face, then you probably don't need to try it. I know it's a case of her trying to block it, but come on. So VaRoom is able to get her off of her. She gets up to her feet. Riley then decides to run in the opposite direction and try assumably a wheelbarrow bulldog. Veronica catches her and then walks over to the turnbuckle, and then she has to stop again and look at me, guys. She has to do that. Then she sets her up for a DDT. DDT was executed fine, but, the rest of the match, not so much. 1, 2, 3, and we're done. And she does her, let's go. And she's, all right, I'm number one, and blah, 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 blah. This match shouldn't have happened. Blind leading the blind, in my opinion. yes, there are worse matches out there in the world. I just really feel like if you are a national product, you want to put your best foot forward as much as you possibly can, especially with WoW, because people already are looking for holes in this show. I know they might not want to believe that, but there are people out there that have tried to give WoW a chance. We're not talking about the overall WoW faithful. There's people out there who've tried to give WoW a chance and they don't stick with it because of things like that. Which I am going to take a side note to bring up Miss New Hire. I haven't talked about her in a while, except for what I said last week that she started to lose interest in the show. So this week when I saw her, or the previous week when I saw her, I asked her about that. And in so many words, she basically said this, of course, not verbatim. She wanted to like this show. But she's like, I can't keep up with it because the thing that she was interested in is like it never went anywhere. And she wasn't willing to sit through it week after week after week to wait for this thing to come back around. As I said before, in her mind, when she was looking at it, it's just endless number one contenders matches and qualifiers without any payoff to her mind, because by the time they got to the Battle Royal, her interest was dying rapidly. Then it just turned into she just did not care at all. And when asked about it, she basically is like, this show is so elementary. It's like a 13-year-old wrote it. Now, those are her words. And I made sure when she said, I said, I got to write this down. I had to write this down so I don't forget it. But yeah, that's how it came out. She's like, this is like a 13-year-old writes this. It's just random stuff. And that's how she views it. It's just random stuff. And the reason that she sees it as random stuff is what I just said. There's so much time and space between one angle to the next, if there's that much storyline to it to begin with, that she's like, I don't know what I'm watching there. And this thing right here is a good example of that. You don't know why Pep Riley's doing what she's doing. You don't even know what the abuse was that Chainsaw had. You don't know why it was so important to get Chainsaw away from her sister. You don't know any of that stuff. And the common denominator amongst all of that is that David McClain has to explain it. That is the only thing that comes across with any sort of thread between stories, is that he has to say it. And yes, he did that. He went in and, in the video, we know that she was abused, or, of course, not verbatim. This and that and the other happened, and yada, yada, yada. We're not getting it from the participants. That's the problem. Or at least one of. I'm not going to say the problem. But we never get it from the participants. So that is one point that I wanted to bring up. And I realized that Miss New Hire is not representative of every person that is, a casual viewer or something like that. But she was interested in the show. She was genuinely interested. She was excited about it even. Right down to, I want to, watch this, take notes and blah, 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 blah. But then it slowly waned on her. Rather than her being interested in any given angle, storyline, personality, or what have you, all it turned into in her eyes was an endless stream of matches. Just match after match after match after match with very little to connect it or get her interested or keep her interested. Because I think the last thing that she's looked at that had some sort of, wow, this was good to watch and I'm glad I got to see it was she calls them the country girls, Big Rigs and Bourbon. Like them dealing with winning the championships, defending the championships, and then rolling over to Animal Instinct. Now, that was when she started losing it with them because it became silly. Or at least silly to her. But before then, Jessie Jones, because she got the chance to express her issues, however silly the reasons may have been, she at least got it over. But it's back down to this now. So, moving on. At the end of the match, Veronica gets on the microphone and she says to the ring announcer, "Say my name again," and McLean does it for her. I was like, God damn, you can't even let the ring announcer do that. And I was so glad that that Nigel Zane is like, she was talking to the ring announcer. Now, he didn't say it with any attitude or nothing like that. He wasn't being mean, but he pointed out the obvious. She did not call for David McLean to repeat it. She called for the ring announcer to repeat it. He just stepped on her toes. And he got the chance to say it like a vicious Veronica VaRoom, which is a stupid name. Anyhow, she goes back to cutting the generic WoW promo. Not nearly as good as what she did backstage. And they're playing her to be some kind of violent player, but she's hard to believe in. Particularly when the commentators talk about her comedy background. I'm like, come on. It's kind of dueling presentations of what she is. But if you're going to have her be in these things like that, then just drop the viciousness, because she ain't vicious. She doesn't come across as vicious. She comes across as somebody with an attitude when you have her backstage, but her wrestling work does not describe anything vicious whatsoever. She does not have that. To put this in context, because I don't want to just come off like, she's not vicious. She don't look like she's not acting. I don't want to just come off that way. So to put this in context, I watched some of, and I need to finish watching the entire thing, but I watched some of the Women at War event from Santino Brothers Wrestling. It was labeled Santino Sisters Women at War, if you're looking for it. And you're going to see some crossover, some cross-pollination of talent and referees and stuff like that. But I bring them up specifically to say, this young lady, I believe her name is Savannah Stone. She worked against Lois Grain, who we know as the Classmaster. But Stone, from the moment she looks like she believes everything that she says and does. She does not look like she's playing the part. She does not look like she's trying to impress upon people in TV land that I am somehow tough. She looks legitimate in that when she walks through that curtain, her facial features, attitude, how she works, the promo, all of it lends itself towards being aggressive, angry, mean. Doesn't require vicious in her name to do it, and she doesn't have to come out there yelling at the camera and jumping around and all that stuff like that. She looks the part. And it's natural, or at least it feels natural. And that's the difference. That right there is the absolute difference. I would suggest anybody that wants to know what I'm talking, go find that video and look her up, because she is fantastic. At least in my opinion. When the time that I saw her, the match that I watched, it was everything that I was asking for. It was everything that I feel like I was about to say Lois Grain, not Lois Grain. There's everything that I feel that a vicious Veronica VaRoom should be. It's not just doing the moves. It's not just acting the role. Because I'm sure there's a bunch of them back there that are just acting the part. is believing in who you are, because you're not an actor when you're coming out there to be a wrestler. You are a performer, absolutely. Perform what you're doing. And she being Veronica, she should watch her match. She should watch Savannah Stone. She should be looking at how she does what she does. And I ain't saying copy it, but at least look at how she's doing and how she comes off as natural. If you can't make yourself come out there and present yourself as natural, then you probably don't need to be doing it. And David McLean does not help. He doesn't help just by like, yeah, she's in comedy. So, moving on. Next segment, McLean talks about the main event. Segment after that, we got Sibley Scoles, another Sibley Scoles interview. And, boy, we go from one thing to the next here. First thing I notice is, why is Sibley Scoles in an entirely different outfit? Is this supposed to have taken place the same day? Because now she's gone from the black leather jacket with the spikes and all that stuff on it, and being in the back room with the crate cases and all that stuff. Now she's in front of the wild backdrop, and she's got her white multicolored tasseled jacket on, and now she's interviewing Xena Phoenix. And the first thing that they do is like, all right, well, I'm going to interview, but we're going to show some footage here. So they go back and they show the match that took place at the beginning of the night. So assumably this interview is supposed to be taking place the same day, much like the interview that's taking place with Veronica VaRoom is supposed to be taking place the same day. So I don't know why she is going from one outfit to the next. This is a boring and bland interview. Have you ever seen the Progressive commercials with Mayhem? I might be thinking about the wrong insurance company. Is that Progressive or is that Allstate? One of them. But Mayhem, the guy, you know what I'm talking about. He's basically the living embodiment of things going wrong, right? That is his gimmick. Allstate, and he was like, I'm a bear and I haven't eaten in a couple of whatever. He's that guy. Xena Phoenix is the living embodiment of a participation award. There's no fire to her. The loss seemingly means nothing other than, well, I gave it my all and I've learned, and next time I'll do better, and by golly, I'll win the next go-round. It is so bland. It is a bland interview, and Sibley Scoles, again, much like the last one, adds nothing to this. Doesn't add anything to put over, to try to get her fired up. Like, well, what'd you think about that? I mean, did she cheat or blah, blah, blah? Nothing to kind of ignite this thing at all. She just stands to the side and she nods her head and, lets our living award just kind of rattle off that she's proud of what she did and all that good stuff. I mean, look, it is such an inconsequential promo. And the promo serves no purpose. Doesn't heat up any angle. Doesn't help get her across. Doesn't even put Genesis over, really. It's just, well, I tried, and, well, I'll do better next time. And then we got the camera cuts on here. I realize that Sibley Scoles is, their new pride and joy, and she's a star, but what are you doing getting these close-up shots on her? She's not the focal point of this promo. They cut back to her like 2 or 3 times while Xena Phoenix is talking. Now, yes, the promo is bland and it's boring and it doesn't do anything. Yet she got a nice line at the end, but it didn't do anything. And like I said, Sibley did not add anything to this. If you remove this interview altogether, would not have affected the show one way or the other in the least. At least if you took away the Veronica VaRoom thing, you would lose her promo and it might hurt her as a person or as a persona. The Xena Phoenix thing, she gains and delivers nothing here. It doesn't make any kind of difference. And much like the last thing I said with Sibley Scoles, she doesn't come off like an interview rather than, I am your friend with this camera and this microphone, and after we get done, let's go and have some shots together, or do each other's makeup or whatever the fuck. I don't know. I do not know why. People want to back someone who's driven to win, or at least feel like there's some fire there. She had no fire. There's no drive. And if there's anything that this gave way to, is probably, the be yourself, be a star, whatever, Wild likes to do. And I still am not overly impressed with that promo. It seems not disjointed, but it seems like the end does not follow the visuals. Especially when it just ends with some random woman on a mountaintop somewhere holding her arms up and, be yourself and win, that. So, interview segment, second one at least, absolutely pointless. Going to the main event. I'm sorry, yeah, we got past the promo. So going to the main event. That's going to be Miami Sweet Heat versus Chantilly Chella and Roxy Fierce. This is random, thrown together team of Chella and Fierce. The match starts with Roxy and both members of Sweet Heat basically have to throw themselves around. This is, of course, after both teams have been introduced into the show, into the match. And it's the same thing. And I think by the time I got to this main event, I was a little bit worn out with the presentation of some of them. Even with people that I like, it just felt like it got to the point, I was like, this is wearing me out. The fans, the presentation of the talent, and this match was overall like a space filler. Didn't really serve a point. It was nice to watch, but it had no consequence to it. So as a main event, it really didn't do anything one way or the other. So, and I already talked about why are these two together when they could have just gotten Holidead and Chantilly Chella or some sort of established team that's there already. You cannot tell me that you don't have some. Because if it's just a matter of just putting some bodies in the ring, then Spring Break 24/7 or the Dojo Defenders, I mean, even if they've already lost to them, the Mites, you could have swapped that match around. I don't know. So, getting past all of that, here's the good thing that I will say about it. Roxy still comes off as being raw, green, but there's something there. That happens at the end of the match. The first thing that they do, however, is they telegraph the fact that they're going to get jumped. Because anytime you see them turn around away from the ref and their opponents for the inordinate amount of time, it's an attack waiting to happen. And that's exactly what happened when they started off. Chella and Roxy both turn their backs and they start dancing towards the crowd. And then Miami Sweet Heat decide that all right, this is a good time to attack. But then the babyfaces turn around and they get the advantage. Chella with the drop kick, Roxy with the big boot. Don't like the idea that they both had these similar names either. It's just dumb also. Whereas Xena Phoenix did a phenomenal job with her arm drags and hip tosses and all that stuff, Roxy is not quite as smooth at getting that over and getting it done. Like I said, Miami Sweet Heat basically had to just walk into it and throw themselves around. But getting past that, then you get Chella into the ring, and which is a little bit more smoother of a matchup between the competitors. But of course, she is the one that they're going to get the heat on. So the bulk of that sees her take the beating once Miami Sweet Heat obtained the advantage. So they get the advantage, and Chella's taking the beating. And Miami Sweet Heat probably should either work out these tandem moves ahead of time, or if they are working them out ahead of time, some of that stuff probably needs to be pulled from their overall repertoire, because the ones that they added into it or tried to do in addition to, their normal fab jab does not seem to move as smoothly as some of the stuff they've had prior. It seems to either fall short or doesn't really connect as well, or something along those lines. It just does not deliver the goods the way that it should or could deliver the goods. But getting towards the end of this, Lori's in the ring and she gives a good forearm shot to Chella and sends her back into the turnbuckle where they both get the feet up on her and they more or less choke her out, right? Lindsay comes in, gives her a body slam. Then we got Lori who comes back so she could do a Vader bomb, and she decides to step over the stump. Now, she did this earlier in the match. So we've set up the fact that she does this even though she doesn't really do this on any other occasion. So she gets up, she tries to do the Vader bomb, comes down and plants herself stomach first into the mat. The tag is made off to Roxy. Roxy comes in. Now she looks great. Because power is what she's good at, and that's what she looks the most efficient at delivering. Comes in with a shoulder block, hits with a clothesline, catches it with a great back suplex. Those things made her look like she had star power and that she was easily competitive. Don't like the hesitation points that she makes, but when you get past that, she still looks good. She hoists, which one was that? Lori up over her shoulder and basically gives her snake eyes across the ring. But that's where, the turn happens. And whatever issues that I might have had in the match start at this point. Because after she gives snake eyes and Lindsay comes in to break up the fall. When Roxy makes her, because we didn't get to a fall, which she stopped it before we got to that point. But when Roxy turns to her partner for whatever reasons, I don't know why she would, but she just turned around to her partner. Lindsay comes in behind and gives her a shove. And then Roxy goes down like she just got shot in the back with a gun. Laura then gives a big boot to Chella, knocks her out of the ring. We got a nice exchange by Roxy, who is being charged by Lori. I do like the setup that they gave for the fab jab because they both send her in. Laura comes in, gets caught with the boot, tries to run back in. She's tossed over the top rope, so she's put into position. And then we got Lindsay over there. Roxy gives a back elbow, but Lindsay comes in like a freight train with a wonderful clothesline in the corner. Once that happens, then Lori goes up to the top rope. Lindsay hoists her up in the sidewalk slam position. They hit with the fab jab. 1, 2, 3. We're done. I almost, if I were looking to try to make Roxy a star, I almost wish that they had just given her the handicap match. Like, my sister's hurt. We wanted to have this so that we could, move up in the ranks for the tag team titles. But I'll tell you two what, I'll take you both on myself. And then she could do the power stuff, and then the numbers can overwhelm her and she could lose. 5 minutes, finish. But if they gave her that and then she had a chance to bounce them around and do the power moves and all that stuff, she could have come out looking the better for it, quite possibly. But then we get done with that and they get onto the microphone and we got the normal Miami Sweet Heat promo. And that promo is, we want a rematch. We deserve a rematch. Dave McClain, when you going to give us a rematch? Lana Star looks great when she does that. Of course, she's still growing as a manager, but as far as managers go there, she's probably the best that they got. She is into what they're doing. She's into her team. She participates with them fully. And as a package, they look great. Then we get the international icons. That's not what they called, but that's what I'm calling them. They come out and confront the team of Miami Sweet Heat as they're talking like, well, what makes you think that you deserve a title shot? We deserve a title shot. I wrote down, how do they deserve this? And I don't know if I like the fact that when they lose at going after the singular title, they just fall back in line and going for tag team titles. It's like they have no direction either. And I'm not sure whether I like how this thing ended in the promo battle or promo exchange, if you will. The end sequence of this, I really didn't mind. I didn't mind the promo by Sweet Heat. I didn't mind Lana Star doing her promo. I didn't mind her participating in it. In fact, like I said before, I like the package of Miami Sweet Heat and Lana Star. I like the package of Lana Star and Penelope Pink. Still not there with Lana Star and Holly Swag, but that might happen as Swag's grows within the fabric of the group. But in this instance, when we get the promo and they're Dave McClain, we want to, like I said, all the typical stuff that they would normally do. That's the only downside about it, is that their promo is essentially, like a lot of them, is wash and repeat. Like, you could take this same thing that they're talking about, Big Rigs and Bourbon, and say that they just yanked it from their catalog talking about the mother truckers. Well, these two hillbillies are blah, 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 So in that respect, I wish they had another gear to go to, opposed to just saying the same stuff that they had already said. However, this gets interrupted, like I said, with the team of Princess Ozzy and Tormenta. Still don't know how I feel about this, because for me, and I would just say for me, when they have to, I'm going after the championship, and then, we're going after the title. It's just like, well, if this don't work, I go to this one. That don't work, go back to the other thing. That I want a focused effort by either, if not both, Princess Ozzy and Tormenta. There's no focused effort by them. It's just, we're doing what we're doing. So, but here's where I was going to make note with the promo. I understand that both members need to talk, but I really feel that Ozzy should have gotten the last word in this instance. If for no other reason than you're still addressing the national audience. It's not that you do not have Tormenta speak. She should speak because she provides an international flavor. And she's speaking to a segment of the audience that might not otherwise be addressed. So you do want to have that. I just don't think that she should have had the last word in this instance. Start off with Ozzy doing the same thing. What makes you guys think? Now, I still don't believe that this team has any claim on being a top team towards, a title shot. They haven't done enough. And they come together, they separate, they come together, separate. So, in that regard, they haven't done enough to validate them even being in the conversation of a title shot. But we'll get past that and go with the next thing. So she should have come out. She should do the promo with, wanting a shot, getting themselves back in line. We're focused for the titles. And if we got to go through Miami Sweet Heat to prove that we deserve to be ranked up there as one of the best teams in WoW, then by God, we're going to do it, or whatever. You have Tormenta follow it up, and she delivers her lines in Spanish, which the challenge essentially came from her about being, potential number one contenders. You can have Lindsay or Lori respond to that, and then you finish it off with Ozzy, whatever final line that she has, but it should be finished off with one of them so that the point is clear, the point is made. If you're not looking at the screen in that particular instance, because the only downside with Tormenta is that if it happens to be a case of somebody wandering around or not looking at the screen or heaven forbid, they got something else up on the screen, whatever. The screen's too small. Whatever excuse that you might have for them not reading what's going on. I'm making a sandwich while I'm, at the end of the show, I think this is done. I go in the kitchen, get my sandwich. I hear them talking, but then I hear somebody talking in Spanish and I know what she's saying. I run back and it's done. Whatever scenario, whatever reasons. Just finish it up with somebody who can make the point clear. Drive it home other than David McClain. Because if it's always David McClain, the problem is never going to go away. If it's always him that has to deliver the reasons and the why and how, or the stipulations, and they're going for a number one contenders match. We'll have them again 2 weeks from now or next month, because I'm sure it's not going to be anytime soon. But whatever it takes to get them to deliver it rather than McClain, do that. He cannot be the end-all, be-all for every story. And that's what it comes off like, because he, provides that more often than not. So there we go. Oh, I'm sorry. Then it gets down to the end where he does the praise and the thanks and for our leader, Jeannie Buss and Blood, and, et cetera, et cetera. And the only reason that I bring this up, is because of the end line. Wow, the greatest show in wrestling. Wow, Women of Wrestling. I heard that line. I was like, he cannot possibly believe that. Now, I know he has to sell the show. I get it. He has to sell it. But there ain't no way that he believes that. You cannot possibly believe that Wow, Women of Wrestling is the greatest wrestling show on TV. Or the greatest show in wrestling. There's like at least 5 other promotions that I can name off right now. And I'm not even talking show. I just mean promotion. They're like that do this 10 times better, whether they have TV or not. And that's a hard pill to swallow, to say that, well, this is the greatest show in wrestling, especially when you got a Pep Riley and Veronica VaRoom match on your show. No, I'm sorry. I cannot go for that. I cannot buy that. I cannot endorse it. No. And I also forgot to bring up the Sibley Scoles line when she was talking to Veronica VaRoom, speaking of her. Liked by some, loved by many. Like, what the fuck does that mean? That's not even a line of logic. Liked by some, loved by... She's a heel. She's not supposed to be loved by anybody. If you're going to give lines like that, give lines that make sense and can give something towards the person that you're talking about. I honestly, I was like, what does that mean? That is such a random, pointless, go nowhere line. Liked by some, loved by many. I mean, we've heard catchphrases throughout wrestling, and commentators give lines to people that help illustrate who they were. But this does not do either of those things. The great Ventura line, Jesse Ventura. Win if you can, lose if you must, but always cheat. That right there tells you everything you need to know about the heel that he's talking about. Win if you can, lose if you must, but always cheat. That gives you insight to who this person is. Not liked by some, loved by many. That's basically saying that you're a well-liked person. It's like, is she supposed to be the bad guy here? What? I don't know why you would put her over that way. There's different ways to put people over, and that ain't the way that you do it. At least not for who she's supposed to be portraying on TV. She needs to come up with some other lines. And I will repeat the same thing I said about her so that I get the point across and I make it clear. I'm not talking about how good she is as a sideline interviewer or interviewer after a sporting show. Those things are different. Wrestling is a different animal by most regards. And whereas she's good at those things, as a wrestling reporter, that is not her strong suit. I'm sorry to say it, but it ain't. And until that changes, that's going to be the same thing that she gets. It's like this is not her strong suit. They could have gotten any number of people out of the local Los Angeles broadcast schools that's scattered around the place to do what she's doing and probably gotten more return on it. I have yet to see the return on Sibley Scoles. Other than that, it might help them in a local sense. Now, that much I can give them. In a local market, it might help them. Or she might help them in just being there in Los Angeles. But they are not just playing to a local market. That's the downside. They ain't just playing to a local market. They're playing to a broad arena. They're playing across the nation. And she doesn't have to be a celebrity in that regard to, be known across the nation for her to be efficient in that job. But what they do need is for her to be able to get the point across in a wrestling context for whom she is interviewing. If that is not happening, or she's not helping to justify the angle or whatever, it's probably not going to be any good for her to be there. Or she's not going to add anything to it. She'll be just like what AJ Mendez was. It's nice to know that she's there. It's nice that she was on the show. But the end result is that as good a name as Mendez is, she added nothing to that broadcast, at least not on camera. Now, somebody could say behind the scenes she did, but on camera she added nothing. And before we finish this up, there is one thing I want to come back to because I did not get a chance to bring it up earlier, or I forgot to, I should say. And that is a comment that is on Reddit. And I want to read this because of the response that it got. And that response came from a former Wild personality, Stephen Dickey. The subject matter here is superheroes disappearing from the rosters. This was written by Kilo Khan _SSSS. The post, does WoW ever explain the disappearance of the superheroes from the roster? I know some have left the company due to controversy, but it's only a small percentage. It's kind of jarring having wrestlers disappear and suddenly being left in the dark about whether it's temp leave or permanent departure. Do they hire people with the intent of just being a temporary inclusion? Well, then Stephen Dickey chimed in on this. And we say that because he did pop up on the Reddit feed at some point and let people know that, yes, it is indeed him. Took a picture of himself with a photo holding it up to, justify, hey, this is me. And the response he had here was this. There are a number of factors, to be honest. The main thing is WoW's filming schedule. We would typically go so long between tapings that a lot of the workers found other gigs along the way. Who has been saying that? I'm stopping reading now. I'm just butting in. Who has been saying that from day one? This taping schedule is ridiculous. It's stupid. And all it does is allow time for people to find other things to do. Those were my words. Anyway, carrying on. Whether it is another promotion or a series of promotions or some who left the business entirely, the schedule really made it difficult to keep a consistent roster. The reason a lot of it isn't addressed is because the show is only 1 hour long and the train has to keep moving. As much as it would be really nice to give more information on where everyone has gone, it's just not feasible with a 1 hour time slot. I would sometimes attempt to give a kayfabe reason on commentary, but again, it wasn't always doable. The other reason we wouldn't address it too often because no one ever leaves WoW for good. David and Selena are big believers in giving people second chances, sometimes third and fourth chances even. They both have big hearts, but they also never turn down the opportunity to bring someone back and capitalize on the momentum of having a big return. Those are the biggest reasons people would disappear and not get mentioned again. Also, as mentioned, some people were gone because of controversies and they didn't get mentioned for obvious reasons. I hope this was somewhat a satisfactory answer to your question. And I wanted to make sure that I read that because it was a wonderful thing that he stepped up and he responded to it. Although there is one thing that I do disagree with. Now, I'm not there. And I'm not doubting that the personalities of David McClain or Selena Majors are good on giving people second, third, fourth chances or whatever. And they don't want to turn down the opportunity to have a big return. Who in that company has ever had a big return? I mean, and I'm not asking that to be funny, but I'm saying who in that company legitimately has ever had a big return? There have been returns. Like Abilene Maverick, she had a return. She had a return during the championship challenge match. But that return was flat. No one knew her. No one remembered her. The music didn't set anybody off like, oh my God, is Abilene. The only people that did that were the people on commentary. Santana Garrett came back, and that was nice. But at the end of the day, it wasn't a big return. No one has ever turned back around and come to WoW after having gained any momentum off of wrestling elsewhere. Because if they did, they probably wouldn't return to WoW. At least not in the condition that WoW is in right now. WoW is not the place that you go when you're hot. If any one of them left WoW right now and let's just say somehow became a hot act on the indies, it's a very good chance that other companies are going to turn around and start looking for them. Your NWAs, your TNAs, your MLWs, your high-profile indie companies, maybe Game Changer, maybe Dreamwave, maybe, whatever the case may be, they are probably going to start reaching out to them more so than anybody else. A hot act of somebody leaving WoW probably means that they're not going to come back to WoW unless they are, they need to go back. I defined WoW one way, before, and I don't know if I could say it in there, is where you go, where you're starting out or finishing up. And at this point, most of them are starting out. You got a couple in there that is probably finishing up. But nobody has come back to there for a while to be able to capitalize on. And they haven't capitalized on anybody that's been given to them on the silver platter. They had AJ Mendez. I just brought her up not that long ago. They had AJ Mendez in there. Nothing. She came back to wrestling. The business, the industry of wrestling, after 7 years, they had her on a silver platter. I sat here in this podcast repeatedly saying they should either get a wad of money, a pile of it, and say, hey, please have this one match. And barring that she was not wanting to, incapable of, or otherwise disinterested in having a match, sit down and do an interview with her for the people that wanted to hear her talk. Ask her the pertinent questions. Put the company over. Say what she's been doing. Let her get on a microphone and give her a segment, get 3 or 4 minutes a week for about a month. And then release the whole thing in its entirety, uncut, online. That's simple. WoW was never capitalized on anybody. I'm sorry to disagree with Dickie in that regard, but WoW, if they tried to do it, they did it badly. So, in the same thread, somebody spoke in, this person, emergency _bath _5326. They wrote, thanks for posting. I have tried making the point before that WoW only spent 1 month taping for the year this past season, and that is a side gig for the wrestlers. If a performer has a minor injury or something else scheduled during that month, it costs them a whole year of TV on WoW. And then they say, I hope all is well with you. And that's another thing. I got on them about that. But Dickie responded, you hit the nail on the head. Despite my best efforts to make it as much of a full-time gig as I could, ultimately it never came to fruition. Sorry, I'm fumbling over words. Ultimately, it never came to fruition. One of my major reasons for leaving, to be quite frank. And you're absolutely right. We would have people get hurt and paranoid it would cost them their spot. As I said, David and Selena have huge hearts. And they really did everything they could to keep talent involved in one way or another. For instance, I believe they filmed a ton of Jesse Jones and Americana skits while Jesse was injured just to keep her on TV. So they did what they could, but yes, some people weren't so lucky. It resulted in them missing significant TV time due to the filming schedule being the way it was. And that's unfortunate. And if WoW is not going to change that, then is probably never going to keep talent for any great length of time beyond the talent who are already figured into some top spot or people that live there and it's not a big deal for them to get to it. Which is why when I was asked, I was like, it probably would not make a lot of people happy, but WoW needs to just stick with local talent, at least until they get that thing running at full steam. Flying people in all across the country, especially when they potentially could get hurt someplace else and then they have to be off of TV for months and months and months at a time, as illustrated in this thing. Getting hurt within that month of taping means that you're losing weeks, months worth of television time. It makes stories disjointed. It makes people find other things to do. To paraphrase a Stevie Richards line when he was talking about going to look for work while he was at TNA, and it was like, well, you looking for a side job? I was like, no, this is my side job. Working for TNA is the side job. I'm trying to find work so I can live. WoW is the side job. I'm sure there's a lot of people who enjoy and like and love being on that program, especially if you are a featured act and you're figured in. Miami Sweet Heat is figured in. Penelope Pink might be figured in. Lana Starr definitely figured in. But everybody else, unless they are local to that environment, probably is up in the air and could be taken away off of WoW at any given time for whatever reason. Like I found something else. Speaking of people finding something else, The Beast. The Beast. Now, Lord Jack, of course, sent me an email some time ago. Thanks again, Lord Jack. And he was talking about the time frames and whatnot, and I appreciate him laying that out. But ultimately, it was still the Beast leaving to do Beast games rather than do WoW. Now, they didn't address her on television. On the Instagram, they addressed her absence. Surprisingly. They got, will the Beast take home the $5 million? Watch her battle the Beast games this finals Thursday on Prime Video. Now, I do not think that they needed to advertise her at all. I'm not saying that to say they need to treat her like she doesn't exist. I'm saying that Beast Games has plenty of viewers, and I'm sure that anybody that sees the Beast from this point on will know her from that rather than WoW. WoW will be secondary. And then following that, they put up a congratulations post, like, what a competition from blah, 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 blah. And I'm not really sure how I would address that or how I like it, because I don't agree to somebody put like, well, this does the value of the WoW title because it inadvertently turned the class, whatever he said. I do agree that it devalues the championship, but for different reasons. I think it devalues the position of being a WoW wrestler and the position of being the champion. Because one of the things that wrestling had always kind of done is like, if you were the champion, you were on the top of the card, you were making the most money, you were positioned as the most important thing, and everything else was secondary. Me being the champion was the most important thing that I could possibly do because it places me at the top of the wrestling world, etc., etc., etc. But when you and your prize champion willingly steps down so that she can go do something else, yeah, we know what happened on TV, but this kind of counteracts that. Saying that she's on the Beast Games, I'm not mad at that they acknowledged it. In fact, I think they should have did it the other way around. They should have just found a different way to get her off television and acknowledge the fact that she was on the Beast Games if you were going to do it at any given point. Because the Beast Games and her accepting that spot, and I'm not knocking her for accepting because I'd have gone for the $5 million too, or at least the effort for it. But it does make WoW a secondary feature. But WoW does that to themselves too. It always comes off like WoW was the side gig. This person is a comedian. Oh, Steffi Slayers is she's a nurse in Texas. Like, we talk about other people's jobs elsewhere. WoW clearly cannot be their end all be all. Jesse Jones and Big Rig, who act like they have never seen or dealt with money a day in their life. Like, I'm on national TV, but I don't know how to get a hotel that looks reasonable or luxury or anything like that because I'm an idiot. And I don't make any money on this show. I'm just happy with the idea of being a wrestler on WoW's TV. WoW does it to themselves a lot. They make themselves secondary by their own accord. And lastly, the preview of the upcoming episode of WoW. The preview for their next show is titled Lots of Bark, Lots of Bite. It'll be season 3, episode 23, and they write the following. I'm reading this as is written, so don't judge me. Mad angry from the outcome of the dog food match, Big Rig Betty and Jesse Jones look to get even with Animal Instinct with the stipulation that Goldie Collins and Katarina Jinx can't weasel out of. A no DQ dog collar match in the main event. But before Big Rig and Jesse can strap in Goldie and Katarina, Ashley Blaze and the Dojo Defenders, Kara Kai and Tara Strike, have their own business to settle with Top Tier, Coach Campanelli, Candy Crush, and Gloria Glitter. Scout Parker and Keita Rush could each use a win on their record, and the team of the Alliance, Reina Del Rey, BK Rhythm, and Gigi Gianni, accompanied as always by Adriana Gambino, has much to prove as their opponent Chantilly Chella, Holidead, and Kalaki the Island Girl in trios competition. Maybe I read has as much to prove as their opponent. Okay, yeah, anyway. So, I'm glad that we are getting the dog collar match, and hopefully this will end this. But I don't know why there's a stipulation they can't weasel out of. They shouldn't have been able to weasel out of the other one. But whatever. I I don't care about the Dojo Defenders and Ashley Blaze. Like the Dojo Defenders are now just rotating partners in and out in an effort to go after the trio's titles, I guess, the vanity belts. So when they win it, if they do win it, I am not going to care about it. Valentina Diamante didn't work. Okay, fine. We'll try Xena Phoenix. Xena Phoenix didn't work. All right, fine. Let's try Ashley Blaze. And then on and on and on and on. If it's not some consistent effort to try to get up, and swapping out partners doesn't make them look good. You just make them look like a third wheel that caused us to lose, or you didn't work well with us. What happened to their wonderful new partner that they shot that footage with, Valentina Diamante? What happened to her? We haven't seen her in like a couple of weeks now. She lost, she disappeared, and that was it. And they've just gotten new opponents for them since then. Scout Parker and Keita Rush. I think the match could be fine. I was praising Parker the previous episode. Keita Rush kind of pops in when she does. So I don't know what to say about that. If anybody should be losing there, Rush should be putting Parker over. Which means that I expect Keita Rush to win. And the Alliance and Rhythm, Gianni, and Kalaki. Has Kalaki said a word since she's been there? Has she had any promo or gotten on Michael to explain why she's there? I'm happy to be here. Wow, this is what I'm doing and why I'm teaming with them or nothing. She just part of the group, huh? Other than the main event, I don't know what I'm looking for out of this. Quite honestly, I don't know. I hope that is good. And I will say this up front: the weekend that this is happening, I will be out of town. And I'm not even really sure if I can get this thing up before I go. But yeah, the weekend that is up, airing, I will be out of town. Will not be at work, so I'm not going to see it within the confines of that. And whether I do a review of it or not, I don't know. And time will tell. But I might just be behind the 8 ball just in general with this all the same. So we will see. But ending this up, do all the YouTube things if you happen to be listening to this on YouTube. Like, share, subscribe, leave your comments below. Check out the posts, because every week there's a post that goes up about what did you think of the episode, and people have done the voting. It was good, it was great, it was terrible, The last episode featured 70% saying it was great. The episode I'm reviewing right now, 10% said it was terrible, 20% said it was meh. I fall into it was terrible, actually. Nah, that's not true. Because Genesis and Xena Phoenix was fine, but it's just all the stuff around it. That's all. It's just all the stuff around it. It never seems to be consistent in its presentation. Matches can be fine, except for cases like Veronica VaRoom versus Pep Riley. That was terrible. Didn't care for the Mites losing to a hodgepodge team. I was fine with Miami Sweet Heat beating Chantilly Chella and Roxy Fierce, although I think that the match should have had different opponents for Miami Sweet Heat. Beyond that, I was okay with it, so it was a meh episode for me. Getting back to the point, like, share, subscribe, leave your comments below, go there and vote, and if you don't know where to find all these other things, you can always go to WPNWrestling.com. It is a center point for everything. Podcast videos included. There's a stream that runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the channel, or I should say on the website. It has videos and all other things in between that was shot from me from, I guess, present day back to 2013. So you should check that out. Always something there, always something going on. And if you want to get past that and you want to see the stuff, I guess, specifically, then go onto the YouTube channel, hit the videos, and scroll through there. See a lot of people, some of which you recognize from Wild Television right now. And finally wrapping it all on up. We'll close with this. That this is Mr. Green saying that this is Mr. Green saying so long. And we'll see you on the next go-round. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.